Hi, welcome to my channel. If you like these videos, please subscribe. I'm going to show you now some wonderful acrylic books that I've enjoyed over the years. And this is quite a pile, so we're going to dive into quite a few books. Let's check them out right now. This series of books are about acrylics and color, and they're fantastic. So a basic one, color and how to use it. Really easy to look at, easy to read book on color and color mixing. It's really fantastic. Different examples of how you can use it, different ways to mix color. This is very important. So don't forget this one. That's by Walter Foster. Then there's color, paint and color. So David Pyle, what he did is compile a very interesting book all about color, but also using acrylics. He does a little historical, talks about paint in the past. Here there's a whole section on pigments and how they're used and how pigments develop, because originally pigments were just stone that you ground, and you had a really limited color palette. Today we have lots of artificial colors and different ways to get color. Pigments are blended and then put in tubes. Before you had to grind your own and then mix it with oil and other chemicals. But now everything's done for you. All you do is go to the store and buy it. So he covers a lot of this in here. And then he talks about different ways to combine color, different effects, thicknesses of paint and what they do, some transparent ones and non-transparent ones. So it's important to know which paints are transparent and which paints are not, because they're not all the same. And when you're a beginning painter, this is information that you really need. There's a discussion about brushes. Originally, brushes were made from animal hair, and now we have artificial bristles, oil, and then different effects that you can have that the paint does. A few little fun artworks in there. This is a really comprehensive book, and you can get a lot out of it. Now, if you've seen any of my other videos, you'll realize that I like experimental and exploration type books. And this is by Nita Leland, Exploring Color. And it's very similar. It has examples of different artwork from different times, color mixing. That's always important. Different variations of one color and what happens. Wonderful examples on the side. All the different ways you can mix color in your color wheel. You cannot have enough of that. Even as a more mature painter, I still go back to my color wheel. Limited palettes and what happens. Greens, how to mix greens. This is a really good book for just different ideas about mixing color, but also fantastic references. Great examples of different artists. Choosing a color palette for harmony, like in this one. And this one too, choosing a different color palette. Having a color palette that suits your subject matter, that's really important. I love this one. It's a very limited color palette. It incorporates line, but it's very dramatic. I like that. And different styles for different people. So this is a really comprehensive book. It's really good for any beginner or any advanced person that needs a refresher. Beautiful examples of color combinations. Beautiful samples of ways to combine color. Different styles. Again, different styles, everything from realism to abstract, or semi-abstract, as in this case, and ways to use color. This is a really good book. I love this one. The New Acrylics. This one is more about pigments. So if you don't know anything about pigments, acrylic pigments, this is the book for you. So it shows you different ways you can apply paint, like apply paint with a roller, different paint surfaces you can use. This looks like a little bit like a gloss medium. So it talks about different ways you can apply color. And this is quite varied. They even use pipettes, sticks, forks, pigments again, different pigments and how they work, primaries, secondaries. It chooses to touch just about everything. And different mediums, like gesso is different from other mediums and it's used for different things. And here it shows what some of these mediums can do. You can have crackle medium, you can have all kinds of different mediums that create different effects. A flow kind of medium. Here you can find out all about that in these books. And here we go. Just example after example of how you can use these paints. Thick paint, thin paint, how it's applied, what happens if you use a sponge. You can add paint with a sponge, you can remove paint with a sponge. It just covers just about every topic you can and question that you can think of. It's a really comprehensive book. Here using this is something I used to put icing on cupcakes for kids, and you can use it in painting, applying photocopy transfers. There's just a little bit of everything in this one. So the New Acrylic by Rheni Tauchid. I'm sure I didn't say that right. Now this one is just painted. I love that topic, that whole expression. Often I tell my students that just paint. Just paint. Don't worry about what happens. Don't plan it too much. Just paint and things happen that are wonderful. So this book talks about different textures, different effects you can create, and every little example is here and very clearly done. Using a brush to draw, creating different effects, and different kinds of ways to create effects, painting on different kinds of objects, doing figures, doing things like paper bags, doing toast. So it's full of projects and ideas that you can touch that are really fun. So working with primary colors and their complement, working with blues, working with faces, but not using realistic color, trying different things, combining different subject matter. There's a lot here. Using stencils, using a monochrome palette, using a varied palette, and really loose brush strokes. There's a little bit of everything in this one. Buildings, textures. At the end, we have really good examples of different ways acrylics and paints are used, different kinds of projects, even doing something simple like your sneaker or your sandals. Food. Food's a really important subject. And people again. So again, even dandelions. So everything is a subject matter, and it talks about that. Rethinking Acrylics by Patti, Brady. I love this binder format because it lays flat when you're actually reading it and using it while you're painting. And here you will have a wonderful example of different techniques, how paint is made, and it covers all kinds of topics. But it'll teach you different ways to use the paint to create different effects too. Different mediums were used, different artists are featured and their artwork, textures, how to make textures, how different artists create textures, using paint to create different kinds of textures. Here you're combining with another medium, using a broom to paint and see what happens. So this is a really different kind of book that you can try, using masking tape and what happens when you use it, stenciling. There's quite a variety. A section on figures with an artist that does figures. This is the image, so we're talking about photocopy transfers here, and then using them in your whole painting. Here, this is photocopy transfers. Abstract. So you can have all kinds of styles, all kinds of ways to use paint and textures. And again, this is a really interesting book to just actually learn and try out different things. Often I go through these books and I think, oh, I haven't tried that yet. And I've had this book for years. So I sit down and I give it a go. And sometimes it's just the thing I need to finish my painting. And here we go. And more techniques that you can use with acrylics. Different ways you can water it down. You can use it thick. And different artists and their techniques. I think that's probably the best part of this book is, or the part that I like, I should say, is how the different artists use different kinds of techniques and how they incorporate that in their work. So that's Rethinking Acrylic by Patti, Brady. Painting Acrylic. This is another very basic book, and it covers all kinds of different styles. But it's a really interesting book. I like this one. It shows you how to sketch from a reference, turn it into a painting. What I like in this book is some of the examples. They're very interesting and a whole different style from other books. More sketching, how to simplify, a different style again, how shadows work, how bodies work, nature and all its painting parameters, beautiful ways to create grass to have effects like these. So now this whole section is about painting effects and ways to use your brush. So there's different kinds of brushes and they create different effects. And using just a tree, you can figure out how each brush is used for a different part of the tree. It even shows how the tree is actually made, if that's the right way to call it, how the structure is. And then back to landscape and clouds, how to make clouds, and different particular things that you should look out when you're doing clouds. Animals are always very popular. Back to landscape, and here at the back we have different examples for step by step. So you start with a very loose wash, you add a little more, you keep adding, you add the rocks, and in the end, this is what you have. So that's very effective to know that a painting is not just a one-shot deal. It's different layers and many steps. And here's a figure, a teddy bear. There's all kinds of different examples, and they show you exactly what they've used in these examples and more abstract pieces. So I love this book. It's got very different ideas. Now this book you would think is not a painting book, but I use it like a painting book. It's called Color, and it's more about interior design. And I got this as a discard from the library, and it's proven to be invaluable in different ways of looking at how to put paintings together. It shows great color combinations, and it shows how you find them in nature, and then how they're used in a household to create the interior design effect. Now, what I like about this is it helps me pick colors that go well together, but it also gives me an idea what would be good for a client, or how to, when I post my paintings on the internet, how I present them. So do I present them in my own living room, or do I use a different kind of program that shows a more modern living room, a more classic living room, something like that. And this book has given me lots of wonderful ideas of ways to present my painting, ways to incorporate different colors together, how to use nature to get ideas for color. You wouldn't think this is a great book, but it's been really, really wonderful. Every once in a while, I sit down and I cruise through this book, and it gives me ideas. Oh, I have a painting in mind, but I don't know what colors to use. So I cruise through this book and it gives me ideas. I think, oh, maybe I could use this set of colors plus maybe a different one from another page. It's just a great book. It's got every kind of interior you could imagine with every kind of color combination you can imagine, and it gives you great ideas. So that's for this one. So that's it for my pile of painting books. And if you like this, subscribe to my channel, and I'll have more book ideas for you. See you soon.